Hello. Welcome to
Hello.
another edition of Hobby Think Tank, where I'm in my den and my family will be stopping in occasionally to join us. Mike is with me. What's going on, Mike?
It's late, Danny. What are we doing here? It's very
So
late.
it's not late. I want to get this straight.
It's like 2 a.m.
In a different country. In our country, it is not yet 8 o'clock. I want
In
this clear.
Poland, it is 2 a.m.
That is a made-up fact.
Google it right now, Danny. Google it right now. It is 2 a.m. in Poland, in the Netherlands, in most of Europe. It's 2 a.m. right now.
All right. It is not yet 8 o'clock in the eastern part of it is 8:05 in the eastern part of the United States as we record this. So when you're watching it, just remember the tragic situation that Mike has overcome. I think we all should maybe light a memorial candle for him staying up past his bedtime. He's a real trooper. You know, maybe we should honor him, with a standing applause at a baseball game. You should throw out a first pitch. I mean, this is above and beyond.
GoFundMe for a nap. Midday tomorrow.
A foam mattress extra. We're talking about something that's both topical and one of the oldest conversations probably in grading since the beginning of grading in the 90s. PSA has recently announced that they are going to be offering grading notes from the individual grader. They haven't given a lot of details on what those notes mean. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about what we want to know about our cards when they get graded. What are perfect grading notes for us? Did I get that right?
No, you told me we were going to talk about card cleaning.
I definitely am not talking about card cleaning.
You said topical.
Ooh, that was terrible. So what do you?
Yes, great grader notes.
Yeah. So have you always are you a fan of subgrades? Do you like more information? There are companies like Tag that theoretically offer a lot of more information.
Yeah.
Do you like that idea?
I love subgrades. I don't like the idea of paying more for them.
Sure.
I wouldn't, except maybe on like a really valuable card, even if it's only $2. I'm not going to pay for more for subgrades. That's just me. That's not to say they're not worth it, but I've seen a couple of videos of tag card reveals or grading reveals of tag. Phenomenal concept. So yeah, I'm down with the concept. I like it.
Yes. My kids are right now screaming because I'm taking up the den. So this is a full family production.
I can't hear a thing.
I got to tell you, that's fantastic. For those of you who want to know what's going on in my background, I have Cassius Clay joining us and John Wayne. And they like subgrades. I like subgrades. So here's my thing with PSA. They're grader notes. And what they're saying is they want to analyze the grader notes. They want to analyze the graders much better and try to get a better consistency. So what do I want in my notes? I want to know where the creases are. I want the exact descriptions. If there's a scratch on a modern card, where is that scratch? If I missed it under magnification. If they're saying it's off center, I want to know which way and how much, because, I've looked at cards and measured and, what are the tolerances? What are the things that are important to you?
Where's the center of the card sometimes too? Because some cards don't have borders. And how do they determine what the center is?
That's a great question.
So a week or so ago, I did a video on the 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan, where a longtime subscriber of mine and great contributor to the hobby, who now has his own channel, it had a 86 Fleer Michael Jordan that he sent in. It got a 6 from PSA,
Wow.
and he called them and asked them why it was a 6. It looks amazing. Can you tell me what made it a 6? And somebody said, "Well, we're not supposed to tell you, but because it's a big card, we'll tell you it's because there's a print mark on the back, a vertical print mark." And there is very clearly vertical print mark on the back. But then
Interesting.
he found many, many, many examples of PSA 9s and 10s with this same exact print mark.
Really?
So I reached out to Nat Turner and Ryan is it Hodge? I always wonder.
Hogue.
Hogue?
Hogue.
Thank you. Okay. I always wonder. And so I reached out to them on Twitter. I said, "Hey, what's the deal with this? Why?" You know, everything I just explained. And Ryan responded with a screenshot zoomed in on a mark that he says is there. I couldn't tell, but it's also a screenshot. And he said it got the 6 because there are scratches near the basketball on the Jordan card. And the corner is dinged up, which we knew the corner was, but that's why we knew it wouldn't get a 9 or a 10. And but these scratches were not mentioned the first time. But I would love to see not only where the scratches are, like you said, I would like to see them circled, if possible, and
Mhm.
a screenshot, a picture, an image of the card with the flaws. Don't just give me the notes that say scratch near basketball.
Well, isn't that so much better than what we get now?
Yeah, but I want it all, and I want it now.
uh, Let me ask you first about this person. Did they feel more understanding of the grade after this?
Not
Do the
really.
grader notes help at all?
Well, yeah, I think it would have been perfectly fine had they given him this initially, but they said it was the print mark on the back.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't until I did a video and said, "Hey, there are PSA 9s and 10s with this same print mark," that they said, "Well, actually, it was because of the scratches on the front." And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not accusing them of changing it, but it's interesting and strange to me that they would. Uh, and I asked Ryan, "Hey, why did your customer service department say something else?" And he said that was false information. If we did that, so he's questioning if they actually did that. Um, so I want as much information as possible. I don't know. I've never graded a card before. I've never seen the process of grading. Really, I've seen, a fake, here's what we do, but is there an image of the card where they show things, or do they just grade it and say this is a 9? And now they're starting to add in notes that say 9 because corners are dinged. Well, which corner? I want to know which corner. Uh, is it How bad is it dinged?
So my understanding is there have been grader notes for years. They've always been internal,
You would think so.
and they may or may not be formalized.
Well,
So I
they're
think
formalizing them now.
exactly. And I think this will make the graders. Well, let me rephrase that. If I were a grader and I know now that my notes are going to be public with the cards, I'd be more on my game.
Yeah.
And I'm not accusing anybody of being off their game. But if it were me, that's very much like having my report card in public. I would want to make sure that that I look good. And I would want to do my best. So from that perspective, I think it's a huge plus for the quality of the grading. And we always joke about somebody having a bad day and this and that. I think this really will make a huge impact in the consistency of grading.
Yep, I agree.
The other thing is they talked about, um, or I heard somewhere. So let me rephrase this. This may not have come directly from PSA, but about keeping the quality of the graders higher. And if the graders have inconsistencies or poor reports over the year, that they would actually get rid of the lowest percentage of graders
They
and
get
try to
relegated to SGC.
relegate it to HGA. Um,
So let's pause for a minute. What do you explain to me what you mean about um, inconsistency or poor reviews? Is this on the number of calls they're receiving about the cards they've graded? What does that mean?
let's say that we have a card and you have 5 people. If I run a grading company, I would hope that those 5 people would come up with the same grade. If one person consistently comes up with different grades, I think that would stand out.
So are you talking about like quality reviews where I grade a card and you're my supervisor, you're the quality review person, and you change 10% of my grades? That's too high and I get relegated.
Something like that. And I love that you keep trying to work soccer into this.
I'm not a soccer guy at all, but I
But
like Max Scherzer just talked about relegating umpires in Major League Baseball down to the minor leagues. I like the
well,
idea of relegation.
as the kids say, relegated.
Do they?
No.
Oh, I was going to go into my 20-year-old's room and be like, relegated.
You're right, exactly.
Now I'd look like an even bigger idiot because they'd be like, "What are you talking about?"
Um, sorry about that. So do you like the digital grading from Tag? Is that like your perfect grading system if PSA took on Tag
Well,
system?
no, because I don't know that there is a lot of transparency in how they have developed this system. And might be mistaken. I haven't seen it. How what drives the system? How was it developed?
My understanding is all computer based
Yeah,
and it's a 100 point scale. So
yeah.
it's
It's a 1,000 point scale.
1,000 point scale. Excuse me, you're correct. And so you get a real specific grade to separate, your top cards.
Right.
It is a much more detailed version of, I guess, getting a Mike Baker authenticated or PWCC, authenticated premier sticker.
But is it AI driven? How do they
I think
grade the cards?
I believe it is. I mean, it's all been developed by humans, so that's always my argument with AI.
Right. It's just as smart as the people who wrote the algorithms who
Exactly.
trained the AI. I don't know. It seems great, but until I know what drives it, I don't get it. Can you
So
send in any year? Like, could I send in a 33 Gaudi?
they don't take vintage right now. I forget what year they start at.
That makes sense then.
Yeah, I mean, modern is probably needs 1,000 point scale. Vintage can probably live in 10.
Yeah.
Well, with I guess with half grades, it's really 19 because there's no 9.5 on
Yeah.
PSA.
I do like the 1,000 point scale. I didn't think I
Do
would,
you?
but yeah, but the multiple videos I've seen on ultra modern, because right now it's 10 or I'm gonna crack it out and resubmit it. But if
Okay.
you get a 932 and there's in the it's pop two with 4 higher, that's kind of interesting. It's almost like a game.
I don't like the 1,000 point scale. I think PSA should have a 9.5.
I think they should have a 10,000 point scale.
Just the more point scale, the better.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, if PSA had a 9.5, think what that would do to the market.
Yeah, I don't think they'll ever do it.
No, they won't. And I'm not sure why. Well, I mean, I'm sure because they've got, 30, 40 years of cards that didn't get 9.5s. But to me, that would solve a lot of problems. I don't think you would have people cracking a PSA 9.5 nearly as often.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it also offers a value level to people, and it probably makes tens more expensive
So would
because there'll be
you,
less of them.
let's say your PSA, since we're think tanking this, your PSA and you introduce a 9.5, do you offer deals to anybody with a 9 to send them in and see if they 9.5?
I think you offer a free resubmit.
Man, think about how many 9s would get sent in.
Well, yeah, ship. I mean, people are lazy, but yes, a lot would go in.
People are lazy.
That's why it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if I'm doing grading notes and I have to choose from a 9 to a 10, there's so much pressure to put a 10. I would assume that you have to very much have confidence as a grader above and beyond for a 10,
Hmm.
where a 9 is kind of a safety zone.
Hmm. So let's get back for a moment to the 1,000-point scale, the AI grading. Can a human override that? Because I hear on my channel all the time comments say, pop control, pop control, pop control. Uh, can tag say, this one graded a 985. I don't think this is a 985. It looks more like a 965 to me.
I don't think they did that.
Okay. I'm sure you're right. That doesn't seem like something that's possible. But I like the idea of eliminating the chances of conspiracies, but then people are just going to say, well, I should say, eliminating the chances of conspiracy theories. But then people are going to say, well, humans trained it and they trained it to uh, reduce the pop count.
See, the problem is you start conspiracy theories, and then you say you don't like them.
I did not start this conspiracy theory. I promise you.
Um, you know what? There's conspiracy theories on PSA, on Beckett, on SGC. I mean,
There's none on Beckett because nobody's talking about Beckett.
right now, that's fair. But okay, but Beckett 9.5 still carries value.
Sure. And the pristine 10 really does.
So why?
Well, the 9.5 is far less than it used to be as a percentage of PSA 10s. It used to be that the 9.5 was equal to or even a little greater than PSA 10s.
Yep,
And now it's way below PSA 10s.
that's fair.
Pristine 10s used to be like 10x a PSA 10. And now I don't think it's anywhere near that high.
But do you think people like the fact that Beckett, even if they don't show the subgrades, they feel something about having those subgrades gives the card more, I don't know, authenticity,
Credibility.
credibility. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
To some people, maybe.
Okay.
It helps if you're looking at the card and it's an 8, but it looks like a 10, and you can see that the surface is 7.5. You can say, okay, I've got something to point to that explains to me why it's an 8 and not a 10.
So going back to the fact that we're think tanking and grading notes, do we want it broken down into those four categories? Do we want specific list for each category?
Uh, yeah, I would want to know any
And I'm sorry for the four categories for people who are not integrating: surface, edges. It's late. It's after 8 o'clock. Centering and
corners.
corners. Thank you. Um,
Yeah, I would want to know any flaw that brings the score down. So if the grade is a 6, just tell me why it's 6.
but do you want to know if, like surface and not in your example of the Jordan, but you want to know that the Surface was a 10. Do you want notes with that, or do you only
I
want to
would love
know?
that. I think it's late. I would love to know that, but that's kind of a nice to have feature.
Well, it's all nice to have. I think this is going to be amazing.
You don't think they'll start charging for graders notes?
I think if they don't charge, they might drop and absolutely walk away with the industry.
Yeah.
Would you grade with another company if you were getting free grading notes
The only other company I would grade with in 2024 would be SGC.
before PSA or after you PSA and resub?
Um, I I don't know. I mean, I like SGC a lot,
Sure.
especially for vintage. If
So
I
do
were
I.
a pre-war collector, I would be using SGC exclusively.
Sure. Okay. Is that for resale value or just the look of the card?
The look.
Interesting.
And
Do you-
because they are more consistent, and I think that they know more about pre-war cards than SGC than PSA does. And so I think that they get some of the smaller details correct, especially on the rarer sets.
Now you said they're more consistent.
They consistency is a perception, right?
Yes.
They seem more consistent in their grading. Like you can look at a card and say, this is a 5, and it's going to come back somewhere near a 5. Whereas with PSA, you can look at a card and say, this is a 10, and it could come back a 5.
Well, you should never think it's a 10.
How many people send cards to PSA? You send 10 cards. One of them always comes back a 6. Ultra modern. There's always a 6. There's like a 6 person on the processing line there at PSA who says, "I need a 6. Give me a 6. Here, I'm going to take this 10. I'm going to crack it out. I'm turning it into a 6." Every order has a 6.
So do you think grading notes will stop that?
No, I mean, I'm just throwing out crazy conspiracy theories. It's
Well,
not
that's
going to
great. See?
it's not going to stop it. I think
Prosecution rest.
to asked and answered. To your point about greater consistency, greater GRADER and GREATER consistency.
I see what you did there.
If your notes are going out to customers, you might spend an extra 5 or 10 seconds. You might now here unless here's another very common conspiracy theory. This grader had a bad day.
Right.
If you have a bad day, right now, where's the accountability for your grades? But in this new system, the accountability will be your customer knowing exactly what you're grading based on.
I wonder if there will be a challenge system.
Throw the red flag, green light
Like,
special.
here are the notes. That doesn't match up with the number.
Yeah. And like with the Ryan screenshot he sent me, you're telling me that there's scratches, but your screenshot doesn't show any scratches. I challenge this.
Right. You can tap your head like in the minor leagues, and
Right.
throw the flag.
In the NBA, it's
Well, that's run the video.
yeah.
Um. So okay. So let's wrap up our think tank. We're both fan of the notes.
Yeah, love the notes.
We both believe it'll add a level of consistency that's better than what there is now. Is that safe to say?
Should. Yep.
It should. Will it help customers understand and be more satisfied with their grade? Am I
It
going
should
too far?
it should.
It should.
To me, it should reduce all the emails and calls that go into PSA and the angry videos that are consistent and the tweets. And imagine how many things that they need to respond to that are, hey, why did this get a 6?
Well, I don't know if that'll get less or more because now everybody will call it their grader notes.
I think it'll be less. I think people will look at it and say, oh, yeah. But I also think that they need to include the original scan
Okay.
of it because a lot of people, here's another conspiracy theory. People think that PSA damages way more cards than I think they damage. You send a
Yeah.
card into PSA, how many people get their show their reveal on YouTube and say this scratch definitely wasn't on this when I sent it in. That corner was definitely not like that when I sent it in. When in all likelihood it was probably like that.
People are full of, we'll call it baloney.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are the downsides to grader notes? They might charge.
They might charge,
We
but
don't know.
that's not really a downside. It's still your choice. You can say no
Well,
thanks, kind of like subgrades.
but I think it's fair to know as much about the card as they know.
Hmm.
I don't think I should have to pay for the privilege of I've already paid for the grading. I think that's part of the service.
But it never has been.
Well, I think that would be a negative if they charged.
Okay.
Um, and maybe they will, but I would call that a poor choice if they do. Um, but overall, I think I love the idea.
Yeah. What is it with Tops, Fanatics, and now PSA doing good things? What this doesn't feel right, does it?
What are you talking about? In the hobby, we're not happy about anything.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Fanatics, what did they just announce today that I've already forgotten?
They announced that they're coming out with the Tops NBA series. They
Uh,
announced the redemptions are going
Redemptions.
to 10 years. They announced that they're going to be analyzing stores and grading stores to make sure they meet their standards.
Yes.
Um,
These are good.
well, they're interesting. Maybe we'll think tank this another time.
All right.
Yeah, it's past your bedtime.
It is.
All right, Mike, you have any final words?
Only no.
Only no. Well, on that note, thank you for watching another edition of Hobby Think Tank. I hope we added a little perspective to the grading notes and made you think a little bit. That's what we're here for.
Thanks,
Say
Dan.
good. Say goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye.
See you guys.